So it's been a while since I've touched anything Doom. Doom 2 on Ultraviolent beat my ass and turned me off of anything Doom for quite a while. But it seems that the algorithm only likes pushing these videos, so here we are. This one takes place after the events of Doom 1 and 2, and to keep a short story short, a single entity with vast rejuvenation powers masked by the extreme radiation levels escaped detection. In its crippled state, it systematically altered decaying dead carnage back into corrupted living tissue. The mutants are devastating, the demons have returned even stronger and more vicious than before. As the only experienced survivor of the Doom episode, your commission is reactivated. Your assignment is clear: merciless extermination. The atmosphere of Doom 64 is very different from 1 and 2. The music and the ambience are much darker, making it feel more like Quake than one of the previous Doom entries. The pacing is still the classic run and gun, for the most part at least. The levels are split between the classic tech base and hell themes, with the first 8 levels being in the bases. I played this on I Am Doom, and while playing through the first 8 maps, I remember thinking to myself, this game is way too easy. I think I died once up to this point, and I thought I'd breeze right through the rest of the game. But the hell levels are much harder than I expected. Still not Doom 2 hard, but more of a challenge for sure. This game would probably be a bitch using the old N64 controller, but with a keyboard and mouse it was pretty laid back. The difficulty seemed to peak around map 15 or so, and I found the next 5 or 6 maps to be the most difficult. From there it kinda seemed to taper off a bit. The level design overall I feel is pretty decent. The updated textures and models are nice, even the smaller additions like the animated skylines. The overall atmosphere is much darker with the color and lighting design, more dimly lit areas and less of the fire blue. Some of the maps are straightforward, not necessarily linear, but easy enough to navigate. Then there's others that are a confusing mess, with a ton of backtracking into areas that you've already been after you've found a switch or a key. Being a first time player, I found that there were a few spots that were frustrating just trying to remember where that locked door was near the beginning of a map, but after a couple of playthroughs it wouldn't be an issue. All in all, I don't think there were any maps in the base game that were shitty enough not to replay. I did find the secrets a lot harder to find in Doom 64 than the previous games. Maybe because I wasn't really paying attention, but I don't think it's like the first 2 games where most of the secrets were obvious. There were definitely some that stuck out like a sore thumb, but more than a few relied on the timed doors, which has never been my favorite way to find secrets. There's always a bunch of running around listening for the door's location. Then there were some secrets where I just happened to stumble through an invisible wall. There were a couple new traps introduced as well, the very Quake-like dark traps, and these heads that shoot homing projectiles. These things showed up in dark entries for the first time, and these things were a pain in the ass. This is when my death toll really started to take off. Like the Revenant attacks in Doom 2, but the rocket turns on a dime, making it very tough to avoid. All the classic Doom weapons make an appearance. Some are better than others. The chainsaw got a major overhaul, like it was specifically designed for shredding demons. Still my favorite way to deal with the pinkies, and I didn't use the berserk power-up like I should've, because the chainsaw is just that good. You've got the pistol and the shotgun. The pistol is about the same as it's always been, but the shotgun is not. It's still a good weapon, it doesn't look or feel as good as its predecessor. You don't get the animation for racking another shell into the chamber, which was arguably my favorite part about the shotgun in Doom 2. Still, it's a decent weapon, but it didn't get much use after I grabbed the super shotgun. I don't even know where to start with the super shotgun. It's a shell of what it once was. I mean, it works fine, but it doesn't have the deep, punchy sound or feel anymore, and the reload animation is gone. There's no visual cue telling you that you're ready to fire the next set of shells, at least not like Doom 2 where you slam 2 new ones into the chamber and you know you're ready to party again. You do get this subtle audio cue, but it could be hard to hear when you're in the thick of it. I don't know why they would have done this. Maybe just trying to save space on the cartridge for other things, but I would have axed the pain elemental and kept the super shotgun intact. I'm kinda surprised Night Dive didn't fix this when they did the re-release, but I'm sure that there's a fan-made mod that fixes it. The chain gun is one of my favorites. The weapon visuals are great, the sound and feel are great, the ability to stun lock tougher enemies is great, and I feel like they boosted the damage on it a bit, so it's got a little more utility this time around. The rocket launcher hasn't changed much at all, deals a good amount of damage to the monsters and yourself. The plasma gun is probably my least favorite weapon of the game. The new look is nice, but compared to the original, I think it sucks. The original was great for absolutely melting monsters with its high rate of fire and fast projectile speed, and it sounded like you were ionizing the air around the weapon. This one kinda just feels like you're pissing in the wind. The BFG is back again, and like the previous games, I don't understand how to use it properly, so I barely used it, which did bite me in the ass when I got to the lost levels. I'm sure it's great in the right hands, but I found the Unmaker in the first secret level, so I never really needed to use the BFG or the plasma gun. This was my energy weapon of choice. I never got to use this thing bone stock because I found the first demon key right away, so maybe it's a dud without any of the upgrades. The upgrades are a neat little feature of Doom 64. Each demon key upgrades the Unmaker with higher damage and rate of fire. I do like this idea because it gives you a reason to find the secret exits other than just an extra level to play through. I was able to find 2 of the secret levels and demon keys, so the Unmaker was overpowered at this point. I can't imagine what it would be like with all 3. The demon keys also affect how the final level plays out, but we'll get to that in a bit. The enemy roster is a bit on the light side, similar to Doom 1. Some of the game gets repetitive just because of the limited monsters available. Most of the enemy models got a major overhaul, and they seem to be scaled up in size. Even the weaker monsters now tower over almost everything. You've got the basic fodder like the zombie man and the shotgun guy. The imps are here too, and for some reason when they die it looks like someone took a sawzall to their asshole. The nightmare imps are new. They shoot purple fireballs instead of red and are slightly transparent. Other than that, I don't see a difference between the 2. Both fall from a single blast from the shotgun. The pinkies, or the bull demons if you read through the manual, are probably my favorite new design. They're built like a brick shithouse and they look way more like the massive meat shield that they were designed to be. And they're great for keeping the chainsaw fed. Of course, the specters are here, and they seem to fade away more after being alerted. There was a couple of times in some real dark holes where these guys were a pain in the ass. The Cacodemon is another new design I like. They look way more like the pain elementals of the previous games, and I'm fine with it. I do like it better than the floating ball of red meat. That's about all I can say about it. The Hell Knights and Barons make an appearance as well. Both are very spongy, but I think they're easier to deal with than Doom 2. I think they move a little bit slower because they walk around like they got a shit in their pants. I think the only reason the game's pacing suffers at all is because of these guys. Mostly the Hell Knights, and in the later maps, these guys are everywhere. And it can be a little bit of a slog when you're constantly having to slow down to kill a pack of these things. Of all the monsters to keep on the roster, the Pain Elemental would not be a choice of mine. I'd take the Archvile over these guys any day. They got a complete redesign with 2 mouths that spit out the lost souls instead of hands, and they took all the testosterone that made the super shotgun great and put it into a mullet. I mainly used the Unmaker to deal with these guys quickly. The lost souls are pretty soft in Doom 64. Most go down with 1 shot from the regular shotgun, but they're still kind of a pain. The Mancubus is about the same as Doom 2, still have an erratic firing pattern with the projectiles. I think they might deal a bit more damage this time around, but I also feel like they go down a bit easier. They first show up in Even Simpler, which is a nod to Doom 2's Dead Simple. The last of the smaller enemies is the Arachnotron. There's a couple of maps where there's a few too many of them, and they kind of box you in if you're a novice like I am, but they are a good challenge. They can tear through your health and armor, but they also seem a little bit softer in this one as well. The Cyber Demon returns as a boss fight, and it's pretty easy overall. Most of the arenas where you end up fighting these things have a ton of open space, so the splash damage from the rockets isn't a hazard at all. These guys do go down very fast with the upgraded Unmaker. If you want a good Cyber Demon fight, you need to head to the fun levels. Cat and Mouse is actually a challenge because you only get a rocket launcher and the Cyber Demon teleports around the map chasing you down. Add in the tight corridors so the splash damage is actually a threat, and it makes for a pretty fun time. Absolution is the final fight of the base game, and this is where you face off against the Mother Demon, the monster that the manual is talking about that's been resurrecting the other demons. This is where the demon keys found in the secret levels really come in handy. Not only do they upgrade the Unmaker, but they also let you close these portals before a shitload of monsters spawn in. The first time around I didn't understand this, so I got overwhelmed. And once the waves of monsters are dealt with, the Mother Demon spawns in. I can see this being a challenge without the upgraded Unmaker. I was fortunate enough to find 2 of the demon keys in secret levels, so she went down pretty easy. The re-release of Doom 64 also introduced the Lost levels. They reminded me of the Romero or Peterson maps from Doom 2. Challenging level design with enemies coming at you from all angles with way more backtracking through a map than I would like. They're challenging right from the start too, facing some higher level monsters with just your basic weapons. It does get much easier after you find the super shotgun and fall back into the same old rhythm. I really found I was missing the Unmaker in these levels. I'd relied on it way too much while playing through the original maps, so I had to fall back on a weapon I don't like and a weapon I don't understand how to use. I found these levels to be the most frustrating to get through. I think the level design overall was pretty good, with some really interesting design choices, but the amount of backtracking did me in. The final map of the Lost levels is definitely my favorite. Just running around a huge arena collecting demon keys to upgrade the Unmaker. There's a couple Cyber Demons in here which I avoided until the Unmaker was fully upgraded, and it just tore through them. The final fight is another Mother Demon and is definitely easier than the one in the base game. A fully upgraded Unmaker and a bunch of cover and it's all over. All in all, I like this one. I marathoned it from start to finish, and I only started wishing it would end while I was playing through the Lost levels. The base game was a blast with some fun puzzles and interesting challenges, and I really like the updated design aesthetic. I've started playing through Doom 3 now, and Doom 64 feels way more like a sequel than Doom 3 does.